We're on. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're doing an impromptu Tuesday night live. So every Monday we do a Monday night live where we have a guest and we talk all things real estate and entrepreneurship. And today I happened to run into my friend Alex at another event, and I wasn't expecting to see you there, Alex. Yeah. So at first I'm like, but I know that guy. Who is this guy? And you had the camera guy following you around. So I was like, hey, let's go just shoot some content and talk about some stuff. And you're always doing really cool stuff. So I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself to everybody, and hopefully we will entertain some people and drop some knowledge and help people give value and, just talk about what's going on in the world of real estate today for you and for me and vice versa. So
sounds good.
Yeah.
So my name's Alex Quezada. Real estate investor from Orlando, Florida. That's how I know Robbie here. Been in real estate for 10, 11 years. Was doing wholesaling, a lot of wholesaling in the beginning. That's how we first met.
Yep.
A bunch of properties. I've sold some of your properties as well. And through the years, I've built up my own business, mostly through wholesale. And then from doing wholesaling, I've learned and, pretty much mastered like creative financing. And that's how I started buying a lot of my portfolio from around 2017 and on. Just buying properties and keeping them for myself through, subject to deals, seller financing, started buying, mobile home parks, apartment buildings. Right now, my main focus is self-storage.
Yeah.
So we bought 8 self-storage facilities in the last 2 years. We added value on a few of those very quickly, about to dispose of 3 of those assets, take that capital, redeploy, buy more.
Nice.
And so got a pretty good sized team in Orlando. My brother pretty much runs my wholesale business based in Orlando. We're doing about 20 deals a month and picking up 2 creative deals a month for ourselves to keep in Central Florida, Orlando, Tampa. And then my main focus is self-storage, looking at deals, finding deals.
Are you building them or are you buying existing?
So we're mostly buying existing. We have 1 development deal in Tallahassee. We finished phase 1. We're jumping on phase 2, getting started on phase 2. And yeah, so building those up and looking for more deals. We're just expanded outside of Florida. We're getting our first deal, which is going to be our biggest deal so far in outside of Houston, Texas. And we got that with seller financing, 85% seller financing on $5.5 million, 3%,
Wow.
30-year amortized, 10-year balloon.
That's Pace Morby shit, man. That's amazing.
That's
and you're friends with Pace too, and
Yep,
so you guys have you done stuff together? I mean, that's basically who you're kind of going after, that type of 100%. Don't have to put much money in it and get seller financing.
I can get those deals for sure, because even right now with today's market, like it's hard to make some of these numbers pencil because sellers want like higher expected prices than what can pencil with today's interest rates.
Yeah.
So I paid slightly above the as-is appraisal, but got great terms that I couldn't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And so it's sometimes I make, with every pretty much storage deal, I'm making offers that are creative finance offers, because a lot of times my lower offer with even going to the bank, not even cash, is a much lower offer than they would accept.
But you're making 2 or 3 offers at a time, right? So you would buy it for cash down here. You would do bank financing or some kind of mid-level, and then you would do full on 100% seller finance. I'll give you top dollar and you give me 0 interest type term stuff.
It's harder to get the 0 interest and the 0 down, but I can raise the capital to put, the 10, 15, maybe 20% down or not.
Yep.
And then, just get an interest rate that allows us to cash flow and make sure it's a quality deal. And there's plenty of add value there. So like within probably 6 months to a year, it's probably worth $7 million.
No kidding. And what's your buy price now?
5.5.
5.5. And tell us, so structure the deal for us. Tell us about it.
So 5.5 million. I'm going to raise 1.3, which is going to be for the add value, which there's not a ton of add value, more like just upkeep, put in some systems in place. With this, the add value a lot on this deal is a little bit of add value on the rent bumps, but the real add value is like cutting the expenses.
Okay.
So he's owned this property for 20 years. He has his daughter. He pays like $100K a year to manage it, $50K to like a maintenance person, and then $50K to like an overnight security.
Okay.
Which you really don't need all that.
So you can combine that into 1, maybe 2 people.
1 employee, and then systems, better security, better, updated systems.
Yeah.
And cut a lot of those expenses. So literally I can cut like 100K in expenses like that overnight. And literally just that increases the NOI tremendously.
And what's your cash flow going to be?
Cash flow should be after paying him in the private lender. So I'm bringing private money in, paying them a pref, only giving up about probably 25% equity. We'll be cash flowing probably 4 to 5K a month.
Of just net.
Yeah.
Passive, pretty much passive.
Yeah.
You got to manage the management.
I'm going to have a third-party manager in place.
Yeah.
All the other facilities we manage
Okay.
ourselves.
Yeah.
But this one I'm going to use third-party management because it is a bigger facility. It's out of state.
Yeah.
So I just feel more comfortable, with trying that out.
It's not bad too to spread out the management, right? Like we run some hospitality projects on the island, and I like to put an operator in place, and then if I'm running 3 or 4 of them, we just manage the management. Yeah. We do that basically with a call a week. Yeah. And it's sort of similar to coaching, but it's, they're kind of autonomous. They run their show, and they get bumps for creating better cash flow and stuff like that. So they're highly incentivized. Is that kind of something like you're thinking about?
Yeah. So with our existing facilities, what we do is we look for like some of them are women, but like a retired person who wants like the extra income, and they live close by, and they want something to do. And all of ours are like, we were like, hey, you don't have to be there like an hour a day, a couple hours a day, by appointment, on call, kind of thing. And like sometimes they're there 6 hours a day, just cleaning up because they want something to do. They take ownership of it as their own, and we want them to. Yeah. And we give bonuses on 5-star reviews. Okay. The more Google reviews they get, that's how we pay bonuses.
Okay, cool. And now I know you're shooting some content. You're doing the YouTube stuff. You're going to do like Storage Wars kind of content too?
Everything's online with the auctions now. So they just take pictures of the unit. And
is it really? That's too bad. Yeah. Those are fun. That was a fun show.
Myself, nothing.
You guys don't even have to have auctions, really. You just do it online.
The auctions, but the manager, all he does is take a photo, post it online. They bid. The guy comes.
So you always get paid. Yeah. Like this is a business that there's really never real downside, right?
In the auctions, you kind of lose a little bit depending on how long it takes for them to move the stuff out. But you recoup like your cost. Essentially what you were owed, and then you add fees for cutting the lock, auction fee, those kind of fees you add on. But if it's sold, if they had like a gold treasure chest in there and it's sold for $1 million, you only get what you were owed.
Yeah, you only get what my point is though, as the owner of this wonderful type of passive income real estate, you're pretty much guaranteed to get paid.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess there are crazy people who store absolute like garbage, boxes of dirt, and it's hard to auction that off, and you end up just cleaning the stuff out, and you take a loss here and there, but really probably sounds like few and far between type stuff.
Yeah, only a couple of times that we've had some people living in the facility.
Yeah, that was my next question. Is that how often, and do you expect that to go up as the economy gets tighter? Rents are tough, man.
I hope not. It's mostly when we take over. So we bought several facilities where they had people living there. We don't really have trouble of people living there after
once you own it, you clean it up. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so now you're looking to this year really focus solely on buying subject to or buying seller finance type deals, right?
On the single family, the only houses we're going to buy this year are subject to and seller finance.
And when you say the only houses we're going to buy, this means the only houses you're going to buy for yourself to keep.
For myself. Yeah.
So you're still going to do your wholesale business.
Our wholesale business is turning and burning.
Yeah.
We're picking up 20, 30 houses a month, closing about 20 of them, and every single month, sending out deals. We pulled back. We were doing nationwide wholesaling before the market shifted with interest rates and inflation. So now we only focus where we have the best buyers, and we know we can move things quick. So instead of like picking up deals everywhere, finding buyers, now we're like, hey, Florida, Orlando, Tampa, pretty much all of Florida. And then North Carolina, we have like really solid buyers who like we send them stuff in a day. They tell us, hey, they want it or they don't. And we know we can get feedback from them. So we know what they're looking for. We know what they want to buy, and we can go shopping for them.
And I can attest to this, guys. I have bought houses while I'm in Puerto Rico from you. And I know that when you send out a good deal, I'd better call you within minutes, right? Like, so if I think if it's gone an hour and it was a good deal, it's gone. You do a really excellent job of getting these houses moved. Right before we came to Puerto Rico, we bought through my wife's IRA, which was a fun deal, a subject to deal out by the University of Central Florida. And that was her first like go at buying something subject to.
Yeah.
Do you remember that deal?
I do. I remember. Yeah.
Is that because now you really aren't even wholesaling those anymore? You're keeping them all. You'd have kept that now if you had it.
That was the only subject to deal I've ever wholesaled.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because I always felt it's tough to like tell somebody you're gonna take over their mortgage and then you sell it to somebody else.
Yeah.
But now like we're teaching people how to like do subject to, do creative finance. There's a lot more people coaching it.
Yeah.
Base does it. So I think it's out there a lot more where, vetting the buyer and training them, I would potentially sell more deals like that. So I am open to selling them.
Well, I'll buy them. I called you a couple months ago. I think that's one of the things that we're going to do is try and buy some in Orlando, as finally, I think there's meat on the bone there, especially with buying things subject to where only 8, 9, 10 months ago, interest rates were still ridiculously low. So if somebody's had a house even for a year, we're probably getting an interest rate in the 3s. I'll take all of them that I can get, even if I have to put some cash in to do it.
That's what I'm doing. We bought one outside of Tampa area, Riverview, 3% interest, 2021 built home.
Yeah.
Couple. I think we put like $50K down, but I brought a partner in. They put the $50K in. We're splitting the deal. I run it.
Oh, I'll partner with you then. Why don't we do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll do some of those. Yeah.
Yeah, we can do some of that stuff for sure. I mean, that to me is where this market is for the first time in a long time. Like I think whatever volume you were doing of buying subject to last year or the year before, it's going to X. It's going to multiply by 2, 3, 4, 5X, right? Like I would expect that if you did 10 last year, you're doing 50 this year.
Yeah, we did. We bought, I think, 18 creative deals last year. Our plan was to buy 2 a month. We bought 3 in January. We're going to buy already set for buying 2 in February. Close one at the end of the month. That's another one in Riverview for 2.75% interest.
Yeah.
22 build. Like, insane.
That's insane. That's awesome. So yeah, so keep me in mind. If, the next time you need the cash to come in and you want to partner, we'll look at that.
Cash to Orlando. I'll bring you cash here. And
it's funny how that works, right? So why would I do that? Well, you've got a deal in Florida, and I want to have exposure to Florida. So yes, I have money that we could spend in Florida, and I don't know if you do this, but I actually earmark money every time. Like we're gonna have a closing this week, and it 150 grand is going to come in. I know exactly where it's going to go. Like this portion's going to stay in Florida. This portion's coming to Puerto Rico. That's the way that we map this stuff out.
So we're selling a couple storage deals that we did add value to really quickly. I'm intending on selling them. Looked at our return on equity, what we're getting in cash flow compared to what we would get if we sold it.
Yeah.
And it's like 3%. So we're like, hey, we need to sell these deals, take advantage of the capital and redeploy it and get higher rates of return. So with some of the funds that I'm keeping, that's to me personally, like I want to invest in other people's deals. So talking investing here with you, investing like in one of Tim Brotz's commercial deals and a self-storage deal of somebody else's and have them, do what they do. And I know they're good operators and have my money work for me in other deals and, still do some of my own as well.
I love that too. And this term that you've just used, this return on equity, I just watched your video a few minutes ago and I hadn't really put that together or heard that term before, but why don't you dive a little bit deeper into that? Talk about this return on equity, because I think it's a really important thing that a lot of people like me don't look at, right? Yeah. So I did last year start to try to capitalize on some equity that I had. So I've sold some things with seller financing. But you put it in a different way with if I just held on to that property, what my return on equity is, and it can be really bad.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I didn't even think about it. I'm like, hey, I'm going to hold these things forever.
Yeah.
And so my mentor is like, if you're not retiring tomorrow, like you're a young guy, like if you're going to keep buying properties, then there's no point to keep this property because what are you making a month? So I'm going to kind of put it on house terms to make it the numbers more simple. So, but if you're making on a rental $300 a month.
Yep.
And so that's $3,600 a year. But if you sold it, you make $150,000.
Mm-hmm.
Your return's like 3 or 0.3%.
It's really low.
Super low.
Yeah.
So like if you can take that $150K, go buy another asset, flip it, make more money, or buy another asset, own it free and clear, and make $1,000 a month, then that's $1,200 a year. Now you're making an 8% return instead of 0.3% return.
And you're still building equity on what you just bought, right? So you still
Yeah,
equity is magical, and I love equity, and we like to have it grow. But another video that you put out there, you said if you're not selling in today's price, if you're not selling at today's price, you're buying at today's price, right? So that was eye-opening for me too. I mean, I own a lot of real estate, right? And we just went through this massive rise, and I did sell some, but I kind of listened to that video and I was like, man, I should have sold more.
Yeah. I wish I sold more. I wish I refinanced more at those low rates. But that was another guy, Brett Tanner, who told me that at another mastermind event I'm at. And he said that. I was like, oh, man, like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, I would never buy this shithole property that I bought in Dade City, Florida, the middle of like nowhere, Florida. I never knew existed. I bought it for $50K, only putting $500 down. So I bought it subject to, bought 3 of them from this lady. And now, like 6 months ago, a year ago, they're now worth 150. I'm like, what? How's that possible?
She got 100,000 in equity, and you're making $250 or $300 a month. It's a no-brainer to sell them.
No-brainer. So I would never buy those at 150, but I would definitely sell them. So
this is so guys, if you're watching this, right, and let's say you're a landlord and you've owned stuff for a long time, think about these new terms that maybe you're learning, because certainly I'm learning, and I've been doing this for 25 years. But what's your return on equity, and then what would you pay for something that you've got? And if you wouldn't buy it in today's dollar, maybe you need to sell it. Unless you're retired and you're happy to live on the income. But if you're still growing a business, you got to start monetizing that equity. The way that we did it was actually to take our equity and then to sell things with some seller financing. And we did that at the end of last year because I thought that this year we were just going to have this real sharp decline. And I've been wrong. I've been wrong for a few years. Like I thought during COVID that we were going to have a problem. Missed the boat on that. I took everything off of the market. This was smart though, and accidentally smart because I was wrong. I took everything off of the market. I rented everything out, which was great. We got the cash flow, and then lo and behold, the equity just went freaking bananas during a time where I thought it was going to go the other way. So I'm not always right. But I'm always thinking about stuff and making moves. And last year, my move was at the end of the year, we sold with seller financing 4 or 5 assets and picked up a pretty nice chunk of revenue that we didn't have. So we're now making $30,000 a month on equity that we had. And this is money we've never had before, right? Like it's never been in my bank account, and I didn't really have to realize a capital gain. It's a really great way to capitalize. Yeah. Oh yeah. I buy on seller finance. I sell on seller financing. I love this tool. Yeah. So I don't really want to give any more of my money to the government than I have to. And if you're selling something and you're going to have a capital gains because it's not your primary residence, think about selling it with seller financing, guys.
And you can always later in the future, when you create that note and that person's paying those payments each and every month, and it's proven it's seasoned note, you can, if you do need the capital, you can turn around and sell the note, later on in the future and take that equity.
Here's the really cool thing that I've done is that now I know, say Jerry Norton buys the Looking Glass from me on some seller financing. Yep. I know 3 years from now, I have a huge payday coming. I don't have to work 3 years from now. I can just take that year off because Jerry's going to give me a check that's big enough to cover the year, right? It's going to be phenomenal. And I know that a year from now, I've got a big payday on something else, another hotel that we sold here. And so we start to stack these things up. This is stuff I've never even dreamt of. This is all brand new to me, and I've been doing this a long time. But this seller financing stuff is amazing. So
yeah, that's great. I like that. Setting that up like that. If you can do that, having big balloon payments each year.
Yeah, if I can have a big payday every year as I enter my 60s.
That's smart.
Right? And I still have a bunch of rental properties and the cash flow, and I can't stop buying stuff. Like so it's a good plan. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Yep.
Explain what seller finance and creative finance is.
Yeah. Okay. So Adon is saying, hey, what is seller financing and creative financing? And guys, if you're watching this and you want to send us questions, We'll answer them in real time now. And if you're also watching this, if you give us a like, it'll really help the channel. So let's talk about that. We'll go through seller finance first, I guess, and then buying subject to, and then maybe a combination of it.
So seller finance essentially is when, so like say Robbie's selling that hotel, He owns it free and clear. He has no debt on the property. He wants to sell that asset. And I know I've heard from here in Puerto Rico, it's tough to get financing on deals. So for him, it's not even like really an option. So I know a lot of deals here on the island get sold through seller financing. So he's essentially going to become the bank for Jerry. Jerry's buying it. He sells them. I'm not sure what the price is. Let's say $1 million. Say, hey, I'm going to sell this property to you for $1 million. I want you to put 10% down or 20% down. With Jerry and him negotiating on this deal, they can make it whatever they want it to be. If he's willing to set 10% down, or if he wants 50% down, he could make the terms. He could say, give me 50% down and I'll give you no payments for 2 years because I know you're going to renovate it. And then you just balloon me off on year 3. Or you can say, hey, I want you to put, you can put only 10% down, but I want 5% interest and this much per month, every single month until you balloon me out in 3 years. So they can literally set the terms however you want. Instead of when you go to a bank and they say it's 20% down, it's 6.5% interest, a 5-year term. So when you work directly with the seller, mostly when they own it free and clear, you can do whatever you want and negotiate however you want. And that's how that self-storage deal was. He actually wanted $4 million for the property. I offered him $4.4 million if he seller financed it, because I said, hey, I'll pay you more. I'll pay you a little bit of your interest up front if you give me better terms.
Right.
So you give me better terms, I'll pay you $4.4 million, 10% down, because he really didn't need any cash. He was very good. Offered him 400 grand down, financed the balance of 400 or 4 million at 2%, 30-year amortized loan. And then his CPA said, like, oh, I think you should get an appraisal. Appraisal came back at 4.8. So he's like, oh, I think I should get more than that because I'm giving you seller finance, which is true. For the good terms I was getting. So we negotiated to 5.5. So being that he's the bank, we can negotiate the terms however we want. He didn't trick my credit, even though I got good credit and I got, you know, the ability to sign on notes at that price point. He didn't check any of that. You know, just through conversation, building rapport, you know, he knew I can get the deal closed.
And so who would lend you that type of stuff? Obviously a guy who's got a self-storage business. He's in the business of collecting checks every month. And so he's used to having this income. So he's a great candidate. Somebody who's been a landlord for a really long time, has been in the business of collecting rents. They're going to understand this. These are the people that you can make this kind of deal with, I think. The other one that I have had success with is if you want to buy land. Landowners generally get no money and they're sitting on something. And so when you come around and you just say, hey, I'll buy your land and I'll start making a payment to you, they love that, right? Like, so I did a deal here in Naguabo on an ocean piece, 10 acres of land where we were going back and forth, and it ultimately ended up at like 850 with 250 down. That was like the lowest they would go. And I got them to agree to 0% interest, and I had 60 or 66 months equal payments. And they said yes. And then I backed up and I said, well, I need 9 months to develop something to get some cash flow. So I got 0 payments for 9 months and then like 50 something months to pay them off the balance at 0 interest. So it was a great deal. And then we sold it on to the next guy, which was nice, right? Like, so landowners would be interested in this. Certainly landlords would be interested in this. And anyone who's got a cash flowing business tied to real estate would probably be interested in this stuff, right?
Yeah. And so many people think, like, why would they do that? Like, you don't need, like, you have to make the offer. Like, everybody's like, people literally call you, like, on Instagram and YouTube, like, you're lying. This doesn't happen. It happens every single day.
It happens for sure.
You don't think it's true, but it is 100% true. You'll never know why somebody will do something. So just make the offers that make sense for you. Put it out there. It's not like everybody will take it. It's like 1 in 100. But you got to make those offers. I bought a deal in Pompano Beach, duplex that we're going to make it to an Airbnb. We bought it from a hard money lender. Someone who's used to getting 12% on their money.
Right.
He gave us the first year 2% interest only. The next year 3% interest only. Then 4%, and then it goes to 5%. Wow. A hard money lender who knows he can get 12% on his money. Seller finances it with us for only 10% down.
So why is he doing that?
Because he was motivated to sell. He didn't want to kick out the tenants. He's just comfortable. He wants the cash flow still. He just didn't want the hassle. He's an older guy.
And he's probably earning that 2, 3, 4, 5% on not only his investment, but his equity.
Yes.
So his effective return is much higher than you think it is, right? So if he bought the place for
Much less.
way down here and he sells it to you up here, and he now finances you all of that equity at 2%, his effective return is through the roof.
For sure.
Yeah. So I sold my house recently on that. So I gave better terms and a lower interest rate, but it's a big chunk of money that I wasn't making any money on. So for the deal on that with me, I went from spending about $4,000 a month to live in the house to bringing in $3,500 a month.
Yeah.
And it's one of those big chunks, 5 years from now, I'm going to have a payday where I don't have to work that year. It's going to cover everything that I want to do, right?
That's awesome.
So if I can stack these up, there's something else that I want to talk about with who would take these seller finance deals. And I saw Pace Morby talk about long-term notes, like doing seller financing with 30, 40, 50-year notes. And why would somebody do that? And it's a legacy play. So like the way that I believe it and something that I have thought about is you have some kids, right? And you've worked your ass off to create a business. And you know that when you die, one of your kids is going to immediately call a realtor and sell everything you've got because they're going to see it as problems. And you don't want to leave your kids something where they have problems. So if you set up these notes, it's like an annuity, right? Yeah. So they're just going to get these checks and they're going to get them. And it's that theory of leaving an inheritance for your children's children. Yeah. And it's something that you start to think about when you get a little older. You're younger than me, but I've started to think about that. Like I want to be a good steward. I want to leave an inheritance for my children's children. So then, not yet, but as I get a little older, I might do some of these kind of strange long-term deals so that I know, hey, 50 years from now, you're going to remember who I am because your great-grandfather sold this property and you're still collecting checks from it. And that is badass.
Yeah, I like that for sure.
So, all right. So then there's another part of the seller financing and it's called subject to.
Yes.
And this is a different person. There's different motivations for this. And so let's jump into that.
So this is somebody who has a mortgage on their property and they're willing to sell you the property and allow you to take over this mortgage. The mortgage stays in their name and you're going to continue just making payments on their behalf.
Yep.
So you're going to start, essentially we buy the property and we just essentially change over everything to our mailing address, to a servicing company, servicing the note, and we just have the payments made on our behalf. And these are a couple of deals I bought in like Riverview, Florida, with very low interest rates. And they were selling it because it's been on the market for a long time. It's not selling. The price range is like $400K. That price point is very tough right now to sell properties. Mm-hmm. And they already moved. They had to move for whatever reason. And these are brand new houses, 2021, 2022 build homes. And whatever reason, they had to move. They're paying this mortgage. They're losing money each and every month. The property's on the market. It's not selling. Mm-hmm. So for us, we could step in, take over their mortgage, give them some of the equity for their home, and take over this payment. We're giving them 30 or 50K down on a couple of these properties because they have really no equity.
They really don't have equity.
They really don't have much equity. If they sold it with the realtor, they're going to make that or less. And so we just give them that portion of equity, take over their payments, keep making the payments as if we were them, and just pay down that principal so fast.
Yeah.
At 2.5% interest, like $500 goes towards the principal each and every month, and just pays down so quick. So we just put a renter in there, just have them pay down the mortgage, hold it for 10 years.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
A couple $100,000.
I think back to the one that we talked about at the start that you actually sold to my wife in her IRA. That person had, I think her husband died in the house. There was some pain to having the house, right? Like her husband died or could have killed himself. I don't remember what the story was exactly, but she wanted out. And she had really not very much equity at the time, but we gave her some money. We got her out. We took away all of the pain, and we did it inside of an IRA. So that was cool. We made those payments for a couple of years, which helped her with improving her credit, I believe. And then eventually we had this equity. We sold it. We cashed out, put the money back in the IRA, and went and did something else. Yeah. But why do I say that? Because the reason that people get motivated can be different reasons, right? Like, so you have an empty house, you've had to move away for work. That's one. You get a divorce is another. You're for some reason in foreclosure, or you have some other pain with the house and something happens. And that's why people would sell you these properties subject to. And now you hit on something, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but when we bought that property from you, we didn't know about this servicing kind of entity. We were just going and making the payment every month, and the lady would sometimes call you, and then you'd call us, and then it was kind of a pain in the butt. You fixed that. And I've heard Jerry Norton talk about it, and I've heard Pace Morby talk about it. So now you can buy these houses subject to, and you can just say, look, we've set up the automatic payment. You guys can go in as the seller, you can go in and see every single month that the payment is being made on time. It's really brilliant. You want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah. So we use a company called Weststar, and essentially you set up everything with them, like at closing, prior to closing. And they just auto draft it from our account. They can notify the seller of every time there is a payment made, so they get paid, and they make sure the lender gets the payment every month. And if they have any other payments that are required, so like we were almost bought one with a solar company where they could have made the solar payments too, but they had some other liens and we didn't know about it, so we canceled that deal. But any other payments could be made. And then so when you actually also when you sell on seller financing, you can actually set this up also.
Right.
And you want to use a servicing company because that's what's going to allow you to sell your note. So if you're just servicing your note yourself, like if Jerry's just paying you directly, payment to your bank account, it will be hard pressed for you to sell that note. But obviously it's a shorter balloon. But if it was a 30-year mortgage and you sell on seller financing, you want to service that note. So that way in year 2 or 3, if you're like, well, I really can use this chunk of money, you can sell that note to somebody else and they have all the documentation, the notes, the mortgage, original note with the payment each and every month, proof that has been paid. And you can take that data, that proof, and give it to somebody and say, this is the pay history. This is a real qualified borrower, and sell that note off to somebody else.
I'm just sitting here thinking about this servicing company, and I have bought properties subject to for years and years, and there is something called a due on sale clause. I'm wondering if, my question to you is, does this servicing aspect help you at all with this due on sale by proving that? So my theory has always been that if you let me make the payment for 4 or 5 or 6 months in a row, you have by default allowed me to take over that mortgage. And I would think that if I can then back it up with a servicing agreement, it's pretty damn clear that it's no longer the old person selling it, or maybe it's the other way and they have no idea that anybody is doing it. So
I don't know whether how that helps or doesn't help. I've never had the due on sale clause called. I think Pace said it has been called on him once before, but I've known nobody else who've had that issue. So for what I know is, if you pay the payments and you have the insurance set up correctly, there's typically no other issues. Unless the seller physically calls the lender and says, hey, I sold my property, which in our agreements, we forbid them to do that. That's a breach of our contract. So essentially, I know what Pace said on his was like, it's a really small bank in a small area, local bank. And I think the guy like hand checked.
And over the 25 years that I've been in business, and people have always been buying things subject to, it actually used to be a thing that all FHA mortgages were just assignable. Like you could just hand it over to someone else and it was automatic, right? And really that is a smart way for banks to do business, but banks aren't smart. But I've never heard of the due on sale clause really being exercised.
It's actually like in Florida, on every HUD statement, it's on like line 114 or something. It states, or 14, it states subject to existing mortgage. On every HUD statement. So whether you're using it or not, it's there printed out on every HUD statement.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the due on sale clause, people worry about that. And like worry in general, most of the time worry is about nothing. And this is another instance of that, where if you're making the payment on time, you have your insurance set up and everything is the way that it's supposed to be, the boogeyman's not coming, right? Like, so you don't really need to worry about it, but there are worriers out there. And
there's things you could do afterwards to make sure you get away, not get away with it, but you show them, hey, I've been paying this payment. I'm going to continue paying it.
Yeah.
You okay with it? And they will say yes or no.
Yeah.
If they say no, then you can turn around, deed it back to the seller, and then the seller sell it back to you on a contract for deed or a land contract.
Yeah.
So
That's pretty brilliant. So, and you guys think all of this stuff through, hopefully ahead of time, set it up so that the sellers are somewhat interested in helping you when trouble comes, right?
So we
Because
make them sign like a powers of attorney for
Yes.
that property. And that way we can use that power of attorney to do these things. If you can't find the seller, later on, 5 years later, they move to
yeah,
Puerto Rico, you can't find them. And,
yeah.
you want to make sure you get those docs signed that you need.
All right. So, any questions?
What creative financing method do you think works best in the PR market?
So for Puerto Rico, what we've used is on both sides. Seller financing has worked really well for me, both when I'm buying and when I'm selling. So just like traditional, go to the seller, make them an offer, and put them in the position of the bank. And maybe Alex, you can talk about how you would maybe coach a seller into being the bank. I think you're probably better at that than I am, but
So for me, what I always typically do is try to get them to the lowest cash offer first. So we
Yep.
always go cash first, because if you can buy a property that's worth 200 for 100, you're probably better off buying it for 100 than seller financing at 200.
Yeah.
Because you have so much more equity, you can turn around and sell it
yeah,
200 on seller financing yourself. So if you can buy it, we always go first cash always first, get them to the lowest price. Because if they're asking 200 and you say, hey, I know I need to be at 100, and you just go immediately and just say, well, let's just talk about seller financing. And you don't ever try to get them down. You really have to work the cash price, get them down at least from 200 to 180, and now work your seller financing off of 180
yeah,
instead of that 200. So now you're working at the 180, and then you do seller financing. Hey, I can't. And how we do it on our side is we say, hey, you don't qualify for our cash program, but there's another way we buy houses, mostly for the cash deals. We're buying houses that need a lot of repair. People are in a lot of situations, whether they have to move it immediately, they lost their job, they're divorced, they're in foreclosure. Obviously, you're not in that situation. Your house, good condition. You just want to sell. You're interested in selling, and this is your price. So
Mhm.
for these types of houses, we buy them a different way. Instead of buying from cash, we're going to fix them up, resell them, and take that money. Because we borrow funds from other investors to do these deals, we have to move that money quick and be
Yep.
quick in and out of these deals. If we give you your price, we buy them a different way, where we're going to buy this property to hold it long term, rent it out to a nice couple who's going to pay us money each month. And all we try to do, Mr. Seller, is make a return on the money that we give to you down. So we can pay your price if you can give us our terms.
yeah,
And then we just go from there. Like, hey, what's the most important thing to you? Is it price? Is it a down payment? Is it a monthly payment? And we try to get one or two things from them of what's the most important. Usually it's price and a monthly payment. And then we just do a algebra equation of, hey, what makes us a great cash on cash return? So ideally, we're looking for a 20% cash on cash return is like a really good deal for us. But we want at least a 10% cash on cash return.
even after the financing piece of it.
Yes.
So you
With the
want at least that on your down payment or whatever cash out of pocket
Yep.
you're talking
So
about.
the cash out of pocket for the down payment, any rehab costs, if we have
Yeah.
to do rehab, if we have to pay an assignment fee. I've bought several from other wholesalers. I bought some from Pace too. And so with all that capital out of pocket, we want to at least a 10% return on that cash. But ideally, we like a 20% cash on cash return
Yeah.
for a seller finance deal.
And do you need any equity at all when you're doing those kind of deals?
So those are the ones I will take less. So like I'll take a 10% cash on cash return if there is a good amount of equity or a very low interest rate.
Yep.
Brand new build home. But if it's a 1970 house, it needs some work, and there's it's a 4.5% interest, no equity. I want a 20% cash on cash return because that's all there is. Is the cash flow. So if there's other benefits, I'll take a 10% cash on cash return. But what are these other benefits? And I want to make sure they're real for me.
And I think probably in the reverse, if you have no equity, but your payment is low enough that you have nice cash flow.
Yes.
And so maybe you have negotiated with the sellers and they're getting all of the money, right? Like their house is worth 120 and you're giving them 125 or $130,000, but you're negotiating it over a long enough period of time at zero interest or 1 or 2% interest.
Yeah.
And you know that you can rent it for enough. You don't have any equity, but you're going to have the cash flow and it still makes it a good deal.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So we've gone that same route here and not nearly as much as you're doing. And I would wonder, how many times are you talking to sellers about this seller finance piece versus the return? And I do this a lot on the channel because I want people that are watching the channel to know this stuff that we're talking about, while it works, it just doesn't work every damn time, right?
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's not hard, but it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
Can you talk to that?
Yeah. So I have 6 acquisition agents in my office, and they're talking to sellers all day long, right? And so we're contracting, not closing, but just writing contracts on deals. We're probably closing. We used to close like 60, 70, 80 a month, but now with this market, just in our best markets, we're probably closing like 40. So we close at 40 contracts a month, locking up, and only 2 to 4 of those are seller finance deals.
Okay.
So obviously, and there's probably another 100, 200 conversations that we're not locking up deals. We're probably closing 1 in 18, probably the offers, deals we make.
So you talk to 18 sellers, you buy 1 property.
And out of 20 properties, only 2 or 3 of them, out of 40 properties, only 2 or 3 of them are creative
Seller finance. So it's a really low percentage. Most of the time, people are just not going to understand it. We get it. The better you become at convincing someone about why they want to be the bank,
yes,
and maybe it is something you can get better at, but maybe it's also where you start to look, right? Like, so if you're trying to convince Joe homeowner to be the seller financing the bank and they don't have any other pain, that's a very difficult place to start. But if you come to Robbie Krager and say, I'm a tired landlord in Jacksonville, Florida, which I am, by the way, you got a pretty good chance of closing me on it, right? Like, so does that make sense?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sometimes is about the pool that you're fishing in.
For sure. You can definitely just go after them. That's not our strategy. We're wholesalers that come across these deals for us to keep.
Yeah.
And so that's where we want to push it. We try to teach our company, we're like, hey, we're going to focus on creative financing. And it's the path of least resistance. You can get a lot more creative finance deals by offering a lot more. And I get people send me creative finance deals all the time. I'm like, this is not a deal.
Yeah.
Just because you can structure a creative finance deal and the seller will take seller financing doesn't make it a deal. I get deals sent to me all the time, and I'm like, who taught you this is a deal? Like, this is nothing. There's no cash flow. There's no benefits. Like, this is not a deal.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you're looking at cash on cash return and there's value on this property.
Absolutely. So that's great. So look, we've been going for a little while. Do we have more questions? We have more questions. Wonderful. Guys, look, give us your questions. Give us the thumbs up. Give us some interaction. Help us out here, guys. We're looking to give you guys as much value as possible, and your questions are how we can help, how we can do it.
When looking at SubTo or seller financing, do they want to know your personal credit score or other personal financials?
Man, so I've only done this maybe 15 or 20 times over 25 years. I don't think I've ever been asked how my credit is or asked to see my financials.
So only once, and it was that hard money lender guy.
Okay.
And when it just happened, Pompano Beach one, he was the only person who asked.
Yeah.
But I've done several other deals, multi-million-dollar seller finance deals, never been asked once.
Yeah. So it's really not generally going to be a thing, right?
No, not really.
Has the Gringo Go Home rhetoric hurt in requesting seller financing or other creative financing tools?
Huh. No. Although if the seller is telling me Gringo Go Home, I'm probably not going to be negotiating a deal with them. So, but no, the Gringo Go Home movement hasn't really hurt us in any noticeable manner, other than it's caused me to have some lively conversations online that I probably shouldn't be wasting my time on, but I'm a sucker for a little bit of fun. And anytime one of these idiots wants to tell me to go home, I like to tell them I am home in San Juan, and thanks for asking me to come home.
I would love to return home to Puerto Rico, but it would be a sound financial decision for me if I can't get into a multifamily where I can live in one of the units. I don't know if there's a question.
I think the question is, can she buy a multifamily and have it pay for itself? And absolutely, that's a house hack that can happen. please email us at the flipflopflipper at PR. What is it? The flipflopflipper PR at gmail.com, the flipflopflipper PR at gmail.com. We happen to have a multifamily deal right now that you could live in and rent out the rest. It will cash flow. It will qualify for traditional financing. And we'd even consider doing some seller financing with the right offer. So absolutely, these kind of house hacks are available on the island, like lots and lots of them. They're not even super difficult to find. It's like anything else. You know, you're looking at 18 deals to find one. You're going to look at a lot of things and make lots of offers before you get a good deal, but that's just the way it is. I mean, real estate investing is a numbers game. So do you do house hack stuff? Have you sold any of those? Or
No.
Not really?
No. I wish I did when I first started, and I'm actually trying to get LA here, my camera guy, into a deal like that. And then my other disposition guy, Sebastian, he's looking for a deal like that as well, with seller financing. Both of them are less than 2 years employed by me.
Yeah.
So you need, for ideally in the United States, if you have your job history for 2 years, you can get FHA financing, 3% down payment. So if you can wait for that, if you have that ability, then you can go make offers on, a duplex, a small multifamily, 4-unit, whatever it may be, only pay 3% down.
Yeah.
And then do that house hacking, which is a great
Yeah.
strategy.
And Adon, I can't see the screen. I don't know who was asking the question, but if you email us, not only do we have one that we're looking to sell right now, but I also have some multifamily properties that I would sell with seller financing. And so just reach out to us. If you want to partner with us in any way, it starts with reaching out. First, subscribe to the channel and then send us an email.
Here's another one. How does seller financing work? I know you guys talked about it earlier.
So essentially, it's just like with the bank, you're going to do a mortgage and a note that secures the seller's payment. And so then as the owner, as the borrower, you're just paying them a monthly payment as if you were paying Bank of America or whoever the bank is. So just a mortgage and a note and just an agreement between you guys going to closing.
Yeah. And so we could talk about with that question, who does it work for, right? So like it works for us as real estate investors. It helps us to get into more real estate projects with less money out of pocket, but it also works for someone who, like the last person asking a question, is looking for a house hack, and maybe this person, this one doesn't have great credit, maybe a bankruptcy or something like that. And so you get creative and you go out and make these offers, and you've saved up a 20 or 30% down payment. That can start to be attractive to sellers, especially in a market like Puerto Rico, where there's not as much liquidity as there is in the stateside. And I mean, so I don't know if you're aware, Alex, but in Puerto Rico, we just don't have the ease of finance that exists in Orlando, Florida, right? Like to borrow money against my 7-unit apartment building in Bayamon, it's damn near impossible, right? If it's not a traditional in the box FHA, type home, there's really not a program. We almost had DSCR, the debt coverage service ratio stuff, and we were going to free up some cash that way. That went away like overnight. It was coming. People were starting to do it, and we had this little hiccup back home, and they stopped all that. But as soon as they get back to it, they'll open it back up. But liquidity is a tough issue here in Puerto Rico, so this stuff becomes even more important. So this seller financing or buying subject to, if anybody did get a loan, now you've got something that's super valuable. If you want to sell, let's say I'm a seller and I've got a bank financing from Banco Popular, and I want to get sort of top dollar. Well, I can go and say, look, I want $450,000 for this house, but I've got a $340,000 loan, and I'll let you start making the payments to the bank. Just pay me my equity. Yep. And you probably can get a little bit more equity because you've got the loan in place here. Yeah. So that's another way to think of it too. Yeah. Yeah.
I have assets in the U.S. with great equity, a rental property, but will I be able to use any of that equity here in the island?
Yeah. So of course, if you want to pull equity out of something that you've got in the U.S., it's far easier to borrow against U.S. based assets than it is Puerto Rico. So I would say just go to your bank, pull out the equity, bring the cash to Puerto Rico.
Yep.
The cash will go further. You're from New York. They said from New York.
They said US.
Oh, they said U.S. Well, anyway, almost everywhere in the U.S. the cash goes further here than it does, and if it's New York, then it damn sure goes further here than it does there. So
refinance, HELOCs.
yeah, and it's still, even though interest rates have gone up, it's still really not expensive money.
Yeah.
This 7% mortgages with inflation at 6 or 7%, basically, guys, that's borrowing money for free.
True.
Now, granted, it's just not as good as borrowing money at 3% 8 or 10 months ago, but it's still really inexpensive money.
For sure.
Are real estate professionals and attorneys and PR familiar with creative finance methods?
Man, it all depends on who you're talking to. Great question. Thank you for that. Most are going to tell you no, flat out. Like, they're not going to know what you're talking about. So you have to educate them. And many real estate professionals are going to believe that if their sellers are willing to do the seller finance, there's not going to be anything left in it for them. So you have to kind of coach them through that. Maybe you've got some experience with that.
Yeah, you definitely have to coach a lot of people through it. Not the title companies in the United States. There's definitely title companies that know, and you want to use those title companies that know what they're doing. But the sellers, definitely, sellers don't always know what you mean by seller financing. So you coach the sellers on
or real estate agents too. Don't know.
Agents don't know either. Yeah. So real estate agents, you do have to coach a lot of them also on seller financing, subject to, for sure.
Yeah.
There's very few between that know seller financing. But and then attorneys also, like some attorney states in North Carolina, we've done deals where they didn't know anything, so we just changed to a different attorney who does know what they're doing. So
yeah, and I to be honest, I asked the question a lot. Will they take seller financing? And so every time the answer is no, they just want to sell it, right? Like, so that's the answer. And then I have to start saying, well, listen, why don't you make them the offer in this way? I'll give them cash at this price. It's really low, but I would consider another offer that's closer to their asking price. So why don't you just present both offers? And then it's curious, but every once in a while they'll come back and go, well, he would take the higher offer, and he'll consider being the bank, right? So yeah, again, it's a numbers game. Real estate investing is not just going to come easy. And if you think that you're going to go make an offer on 3 houses and buy a house, yes, it may happen, but it's probably not. Like, you've been doing this for a long time and you're getting 1 out of 18. Yeah. And that's pretty consistent with what I would say we've done for years and years, right? Like, even if I go to the foreclosure sale, maybe I was buying at the best 1 in 10 houses from bidding on to actually winning, maybe 1 in 10. And then there were tons of others that we didn't even bid on that someone else just kind of blew through our number. So it's really, you've got to put in the effort, guys. Like, and I know that's a dirty word. Like work is such a bad word right now. Ever since COVID, nobody wants to frickin' do it.
For real.
Robert, do I still qualify for any Act 60 benefits if I don't live on the island?
If you don't live on the island, Act 60, there are tons of benefits that you qualify for. There are pieces of Act 60 that you do not qualify for. One of the nice things about Act 60 is that they've put it all in one spot, and so you can read through it if you've got time, or like you can't sleep at night. But depending on which part of Act 60, yes, you could qualify. Like we invest heavily in tourism, Act 60 tourism, where we get 40% tax credits, and absolutely you can live in the States, qualify for it, get to take advantage of all of the goodies. There are other things that are in Act 60 that you absolutely have to move to the island to take advantage of. And then there's still another category where there are portions of Act 60 that it doesn't matter if you have lived here forever or you live in the States, you can take advantage of. So what used to be Act 20, which is export services, is open to anybody who either lives in the States and is going to move to the island, or who lives on the island. Act 22 is the one that everyone kind of hates. That's the personal net worth thing. That's the blockchain guys. That's the day traders. And they pay basically no capital gains tax. And unfortunately, the way the law is written, it's not available to the local population. And so that's the that's where we get a lot of the gringo go home. Everyone assumes that every white person on the island is here to not pay personal capital gains. And I don't make my money that way, so I'm not a part of that. But yes, it doesn't matter. You can live on the island, you can live in the States, and there are portions of Act 60 for absolutely everybody. Puerto Rico is very business friendly, and it's sort of a tax haven. It's a part of the U.S., and so really good benefits to coming to Puerto Rico are that you know the government, you use the same dollar, you don't need a passport, and it's an island paradise, right? So it's great.
Food's good. Weather's good.
What are cons for sellers?
With
Seller financing, I'm assuming.
Very broad.
I would say that I actually just told this to my team the other day on when we used to make these offers, when 5 years ago, 7 years ago, like it wouldn't happen a lot. The seller didn't know about it. Now we make offers and they're like, oh yeah, I already got like 4 other offers like this.
Yeah.
So what I tell my team is how we used to do it with wholesaling and be like, hey, oh, you got another cash offer? Is there an inspection period? 15 days, $100 deposit. Yeah, they're not a real buyer. They're going to turn around and sell it to us. We're the real buyer. We'll give you 10 grand non-refundable. Our price is a lot less, but we're a real buyer.
Yeah.
So we told my staff to do that same thing with seller financing. We tell them, you should check their credit. You should check their credit. Do you even know if they bought other houses? Do they even own other properties?
Have they ever done this before?
Yeah, have they done this before?
Have they ever closed on anything? Are they going to make that payment for you?
Exactly. And so they should be a little bit worried of, hey, can this person make my payment? Do they have an income? Do they have a job?
Are they using a servicing company so that you can easily go in and see that the payment's been made every single month?
So you undercut them with the knowledge they don't have and the inexperience that they don't have. So sellers should kind of watch out for that. Yes. And so for me, as my company, as we're growing, trying to buy more and more properties, we have to kind of undercut these newbie people who are making these offers to give ourselves more credibility and kind of like, make our offer look better and be like, this could be a worry for them. If you're going out there and saying, I'm going to pay you, seller, this amount of money, and you don't really know how to manage properties, and this is your first asset that you're buying, you should be very hesitant. Like for me, I'm going to make sure the seller gets paid no matter what. Because you could buy a property, put a tenant in there, you're going to make a payment to this seller for $500 a month. And if the tenant doesn't pay you, they lose their job, and it takes you a year to get them out, are you still going to make that payment to the seller? Because I am.
All right.
No matter what. Because I have other cash flow.
And I have a proven track record of doing it for 25 years, right?
And so, we're going to make those payments. But if it's your first deal and you don't have excess capital and the AC breaks down, your tenant's not paying you, can you afford to pay these payments and make the seller whole? We can. And so that's what a seller should look out for and make sure there is. But typically the sellers don't ask you for those credit. They don't ask you.
Yeah.
But for us, we're trying to educate sellers to do that, to make us look better and our offers look better.
Yeah, and so what's the other downside as a seller? If I'm holding paper, if I'm financing the deal, then obviously I'm not getting all of the cash that I would have gotten, right? So if I sell to someone else through traditional financing and it's the bank, they come in, then I get a check at closing, right? Like, so today we closed on this building and the sellers, they walk from the table with a big, huge multi-$100,000 check. Whereas if they were seller financing it, I might come in for 10% down and they walk with 30 or 40 or 50 grand instead. So it is not for everyone, right? Like, so you can't expect that every deal is going to be seller financing. It's just not. It's some things, pretty houses that have equity, they're just going to sell on the market, right? They're not, there's no distress. There's no need or reason that someone would need to take seller financing.
Some ways that help to convince people of taking seller financing, though, is like, hey, what are you going to do with that big chunk of money? Because if you have no plans for it, it's just going to sit in a bank account because you're scared about what the market's going on. This for us on the self-storage, this is a good asset and it's going to produce income. So, why not keep making this money if you have no place to put this investment and make sure you make a good return?
Yep.
So if I could pay you, it's not 8%, 10%, but if I could pay you 3-4% and it's amortized where you're getting all your interest up front, it could be a good deal for you. And then also another benefit of seller finance is, they don't have to pay those capital gains
taxes. Yeah, I mean that's a great one. I've been watching like the Pace Morby stuff, and he talks about it all the time. He's like, hey, what are you going to do when you have to cut a 25% of the money you're getting? So yeah, you're going to get $500,000. You're going to give the government 25% of that right now, or let's set it up in a different way. Let's structure it in a different way, and you don't have to do that, and you get to enjoy your money for a longer period of time. So.
Are you seeing the real estate market in Puerto Rico soften in the San Juan area? It's really hard to tell if pricing last week out.
Yeah, so I'm not seeing it soften in the medium, what do you call it? In the moderate priced homes. Like if you're an FHA buyer, I don't think the market has softened at all. If you're buying a house for $150,000 9 months ago, you're buying a house at $150,000 today. I have seen it soften, and I think it's softening quite a bit in the luxury and the high end stuff. So if you're in Dorado and 6 months ago you just bought that big beautiful house for $45 million, and I don't know who that is, then they'll never have to sell. It won't matter. But I wouldn't want to be that guy, because that house probably now is only going to sell for 30 million or something, right? Until the market comes back. So the absolute lux market, I think, is softening. The very moderate, the normal working class type stuff, I don't think is softening at all. In fact, I think it could still be going up, because we started at such a low point, right? Like, so we had been in an absolute depression for a decade before Maria, and just barely did we start to have a good economy and houses coming on the market where people could buy them and get financing again. So we're really moderately priced in the moderate priced homes, right? Like, so a working class home in Orlando, Florida, a starter home is what, through 250, 300?
The new median in Orlando is like almost 4.
The new median's almost 4. First time home buyers paying 250 or 300. Yeah. So here, a first time home buyer's paying still 100 to maybe 250. Like that's your range for your first time home buyer. And 250 here is a pretty damn nice house, and you can get FHA loan on that. So I don't think that's softening very much at all. In fact, there's such a demand for housing on the market or on the island that anytime you can get something that qualifies for it and put it on the market, I think you still have kind of a lot of buyers.
Why are banks and PR so afraid to lend against real estate on the island?
That's a great question. I'm not a banker. For 25 years, I've absolutely tried to figure out why the bankers do the things that they do. And it's not just in Puerto Rico. I've always thought that they do their business absolutely upside down and wrong. They lend all of the money in the world when the prices are absolutely at the highest part of the market. We saw that in 2007 and 8, where your dog could literally go out and borrow $500,000 to buy a house. And so they were just giving away money, 110%, 120% loans. And then in 2010, when the market has just crashed, they're not lending anything to anybody. And so that just makes no sense, right? Like, so the bankers were much safer to lend in 2010 than they were in 2008, but that's not the way bankers think. Puerto Rico has had a long, hard road since the crash in 2007 and 8, and they really didn't have a positive economic growth until after COVID, maybe sometime in 2019, right after Maria a little bit, but it's just recent that we've started to see positive growth, both economically and with the actual people moving to the island. So for 10 years before that, there was negative economic growth and negative population growth. So I think that's why the banks are so kind of hesitant to lend. I hope that answers your question. I'm not a banker, and I don't understand them. It's like trying to figure out why a woman does something.
I don't have a traditional job. I trade and generate money miscellaneously. I have Chapter 7 back in 2017. I do have 20% for a down payment. Could I buy a multifamily?
You don't need any of your money to buy multifamily. I own multifamily and never use any of my own money or credit. So you can buy money. If there's add value enough, you can buy it with bridge financing, hard money, raise private money, partner with somebody, and do the add value, and then refinance out into conventional financing or Fannie Mae debt. And if you do have 20% down, you're probably still going to need a partner. If I'm not sure on the Chapter 7 if that would bite you, but typically you could just find a partner who can
someone who can go borrow the money from the bank, or you can set up a seller financing. I mean, 20% is a little bit less than what I'd like to see when I'm doing seller finance deals. I like to start at 30%, but I have done deals where we've taken 20%.
And we're investors. So like what I tell people is like, I buy on seller financing and I sell on seller financing, but I buy differently than I sell.
Yeah.
I've sold seller finance deals where I'm selling at 9.9% interest, 8% interest, and I buy at 0 and 3%.
Yeah.
So like we buy differently than we sell.
Sure.
Because we know what we're doing.
Yeah, that's right. And we are selling some multifamily stuff on the island right now. So again, if you are interested in it in PR in Puerto Rico and you want to email me at the flipflopflipperpr@gmail.com. I don't know why I'm having such a struggle with that tonight.
You picked a difficult name.
It's a long one too. Yeah, the flipflopflipperpr@gmail.com. Send us an email and we'll start a conversation.
And subscribe.
Damn right. Subscribe. You guys are here watching this. At least hit the like button for us, right?
Where can I get more information on seller financing? We're trying to buy a property on island and the banks are very slow.
We've mentioned them tonight. I think Pace Morby is a great place to go learn about all sorts of seller finance deal. I mean, that guy's selling his F-150 on seller financing. So I would start there. Pace Morby. Maybe go check out Alex's channel. Alex, tell him what your channel is.
It's on YouTube. It's Alex Quezada, the investor. And on IG, we put out a lot of content. Also, it's at alex.theinvestor.Quezada, Quezada. And we put out a lot of content on seller financing. And we also have our creative finance, creative investor community that we have launched. We haven't actually officially launched it yet, but we do have about 15, 18 members there. That's a community that we're teaching people how to do seller financing, how to buy properties, how to make offers, how to structure deals, give you all the paperwork, and help you pick up these types of deals. We do it every single day.
Yeah.
We're teaching people how to do it themselves as well.
Yeah, and I think we've got a fair amount of content on our channel. So again, if you subscribe to the channel and you just go binge watch everything we've got, there'll be some seller finance stuff in there. What's the channel? The Flip Flop Flipper. Come on, baby.
All right, we're winding down to the last couple of questions.
All right.
What is the situation with contractors and PR? I heard they're high in demand and the wait list is small.
Yeah, if you're a contractor and you can provide value for people, you're going to have a business that's extremely popular. It's like everywhere else in the world. Labor is hard to come by. Materials have doubled in price in the last 18 months or so. So it's gotten more expensive to renovate stuff on the island for sure, but you still are buying things at really good prices, and it's absolutely worth it. So we struggle with this stuff. Like we're always running multiple projects on the island, and it's hard. Like it's hard. Sometimes it's expensive. Sometimes it's slow, but it's always worth it, guys. It's absolutely always worth it. And I tell people this, and I've been saying this for about 5 years. If you're in Puerto Rico and you're thinking about buying something, if you're thinking about moving here, whatever you're thinking about doing with Puerto Rico, do it. I highly encourage you, do it. The water is warm. Come on in. You're not going to be making a mistake. And in fact, moving our business to Puerto Rico was one of the best business decisions we've ever made. And I just want to invite people to come to the island. And if you're a contractor out there and you're from the island and you left because there was opportunity elsewhere, well, there's opportunity here again. In fact, if you're a contractor and you speak Spanish and you're in the States, man, come here and start that business. You will blow up. If you can show up, you will blow up.
What are you using to determine value on the property side?
On the properties in Puerto Rico, I assume they're asking about how do we determine value? And this is, Alex, I don't know if you know, but data here is really tough, right? Like, so we can't just go on Zillow and put in the number and it'll just magically tell us, oh, that's worth $157,000 and it'll rent for $1,800 a month. You put it in Zillow and it just goes, oh, okay, cool. Gives you nothing. Tells you nothing unless it's for sale. So Tasamax is one. There's a couple of other sites, something Abreu. We can, I'll have to try and put that inside the chat. I'll dig through my contacts and find out where we're getting some of this data. But Tasamax is the big one. It's like CoreLogic. It's similar to CoreLogic. It doesn't have anywhere near the data. Like the property that I bought today, no one in the world will know that I bought that property for probably months, right? Like it goes from our signing paper to a box in the lawyer's office. Eventually it goes to a recording, but it takes a long time to get out there to the world, and there's no easy way to get at it. So how do I value stuff? I partner with people on the island who are really good at it, right? Like, so I look for real estate investors, or if I'm going to sell a house, I call up the real estate agents that are in the area selling stuff, and I let them run comparative market analysis, and I just talk to them, right? I call everybody that I ever see selling anything, try and get my relationship with them so that they will feed me information, right? So this is how you get the data in Puerto Rico, is by, and Adon can attest to this, we drive the island. We drive the island, and sometimes we're driving down the road and we turn around and we go call on something because there's a sign there that wasn't there yesterday. And we call on it and we find out, what's this thing selling for? And that's really how we gather the data, is just call on everything that we ever see that's for sale and try and let anybody who's in the real estate business know that we're in the business of buying real estate. Yeah, guys, if you have more questions, we're going to sort of wrap it up here. If not, we might have one more question, but we are happy to answer more questions if you've got them. So otherwise, we'll answer this last question and then we'll sign off.
When you find a deal and you want to wholesale it, what's the paperwork, money down, and other etc. you need to lock up the deal?
That's for you, Alex. So
if you're going to wholesale a property, what you want to first do is get a purchase agreement. And you could use your state FAR bar agreement, the license agreement in that state with realtors, or we have simple agreements, typically a 2-page agreement just listing what you're going to pay cash for the property with the ability to assign it. That can be just business name, like I Buy Houses LLC, and or signs, and that gives you the right to assign the contract to another buyer. And the purchase agreement with the seller should state that is a cash transaction, gives you an inspection period that allows you to get out of the agreement if you can't sell it to somebody else. Ours, we typically do only put $100 deposit, and close date, typically whatever works for the seller, but typically a 30-day period is typical in wholesale contracts. And the only other paperwork you're going to need is an assignment contract, and it just states you're assigning this deal to another buyer, and they're taking over position in your original contract with the seller. If you message me on Instagram, I'll give you our contract and our assignment page. Just DM me at alex.theinvestor.quezada, and I will be happy to give you our purchase agreement and our assignment page.
Yeah, I think that's great stuff. And on the island, we have seen people assign contracts. It is more difficult. There's no question about it. I don't think that we have the same kind of documents, like you're talking about a FAR bar, the Florida real estate contract that everybody uses in Florida. Well, there's not, or at least I haven't seen a contract that everybody uses in Puerto Rico. It's whatever contract your real estate agent has. So what Alex said, if you're in Puerto Rico, and what we've tried to do is that we will, in the purchaser's portion of the contract, we will say that it's this company and or these other companies that we may be affiliated with. So basically this company or assigns, like you said, and that will cover you, right? So then I can go out and find someone else and I can say, okay, well, I've through my network, I'm going to use this LLC instead of that LLC. And it's a perfectly legitimate thing as well. Like we have dozens of LLCs on the island. And so I don't always know when I'm buying something, which LLC we're going to buy it in. And sometimes we're ending up putting a syndication together. And so we're just starting a brand new company. So if I don't have that or assigns, it makes it really difficult.
Yeah, we put vesting to be determined at closing. So how we're going to take title is going to be determined at closing. We're going to change it to whatever we need it to be.
Yeah.
I was told, I don't know if this is true, that it's international law, like all contracts are assignable. So unless it says it's not assignable, the contract is assignable.
Yeah.
That's what I was told, but I don't know if it's true or not.
Well,
someone find out for us.
If you need to learn how to present one, you should release the video today. Want to let them know?
Yeah. So if you guys want to see how you should present a wholesale deal, we just put out some long content about it. And after this, we'll put an attachment to it in the description somewhere, but you can find it pretty easy. And we go through a wholesaler's, basically his one page. We use TJ, you know, TJ in Orlando with Altura.
Yeah.
We use TJ's, he had a property in Daytona Beach, and Don and I talked about it for 10 minutes, you know, and it's really great information what he puts out there. So if you guys are looking to be wholesalers and you want to see how it's done correctly, check out that video.
Cool. One more question and we're done.
What do we got?
Are you helping people invest in PR with Act 16 incentives?
Every single day. That's yes. So are we helping people? Yes, we're helping the people that are a part of our community, and we invite partnerships. That's why we do this YouTube stuff, is so that we came to this island. We're a small business and we expand through partnerships. Every deal that we've done on the island, we've partnered with locals at every level, and we invite partnerships from people in the States, from people on the island. Guys, this is what we're doing. We're going to be here for a while. We're going to do this for the next several years at least. I can't imagine going anywhere else. I think that investing in tourism, Puerto Rico through opportunity zones and Act 60 is just flat out the very best way that I can put my money to work. I think that it's going to build generational wealth. And so, yes, we are looking for those kind of projects on the island. We just closed on one today that we're looking for partners on. So absolutely, we are looking to find partners to invest in that exact kind of asset. All right, guys. So I think we went for quite a while there. That was a great conversation, Alex, man. I appreciate it. And I love what you're doing in Florida. Let's do some more stuff together. It was a great surprise to see you at this event earlier today. And just thank you again for so much.
Appreciate it.
So thank you, guys. Oh,
they can find me on Instagram, Alex, alex.theinvestor.Quezada, Quezada. Same for TikTok. And for YouTube, it's Alex Quezada, The Investor.
You can find us at the Flip Flop Flipper PR at gmail.com. The Flip Flop Flipper PR at gmail.com. That's the very best way to get in touch with us. Oh, also, if you leave comments on any of our latest videos, that's another great way to get a hold of us. We try to answer those comments in real time as fast as we can.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot, and God bless.